Okay, so as we've seen last week, we use very basic primitive objects in Cinema 4D to create 3D geometries, and we started to navigate in the viewport and have seen some different selection tools here, and then move, rotate, and scale tools there, and selection tools there, and of course, during the courses, I'll also be showing you some shortcuts to different operations, because there are many ways of doing things. For example, I've shown you 1, 2, 3, right? 1 is for pan, 2 is for zoom, and 3 is for rotate. But if you hold your Option key in your keyboard, you can use hold Option and click and drag to rotate, okay? If you right click and drag, I'm still holding the Option key, by the way. If you right click and drag, it's zoom. And if you middle click and drag, which I don't have in this Magic Mouse, it's for pan. So only by holding a single key on the keyboard, which is Alt or Option, you can rotate, zoom in and out, and pan. Okay, this is another way of navigating in your viewport, another shortcut. And also, for example, when you click and hold to a primitive or these icons that have these triangles here underneath, it pops up a window like this, right? And there's a bar on top of that. So normally when I click somewhere else, this window is gone, right? But after this pops up, if you hold from here, hold from this bar here and drag, or sorry, not drag, but click here, it is transformed into a window which always stays there, okay? So for example, I can immediately create these different primitives just by using this window, okay? This is another convenience, let's say, of the interface. So I can close this from here and delete them. Okay, so basically you used mainly cubes, right? And modified them. Of course, like there are, as you've seen in the different modeling methods video on YouTube, there are many ways of creating things. In Cinema 4D, the procedural design or parametric design part is very powerful, but I'll be showing you some hybrid approaches that can use both methods. Okay. In last week's exercise, since most of you used polygon modeling, which means like you made this editable, right? Editable first by hitting this, and then it lost its parametric properties here. So it is like a mesh now. And I can go here and select the face and drag it down. And then select another face, drag it upwards, right? So then start to edit this model. But that time, you have some snapping or measuring issues in your processes. So snapping or measuring things in this manner might be hard from the perspective viewport. So because of that, I'm minimizing this, or by clicking this icon here, top right corner, I'm dividing my view into 4 quadrants. One is perspective, the other is top view, the other is front view, and the other is right view. You can always change which one is which, but by default they are like this. Okay? So snapping is very beneficial in some cases. For example, I can divide this mesh to create legs underneath, right? So first I'll go to the edge mode and I'll divide these parts so that I'll be able to extrude legs out of this compressed box here, okay? So I'll right click and select plane loop path cut, okay? Let's try one of them. Yeah. Okay, what loop cut does is, as you can see on the perspective window on the left, it cuts as a loop, okay? It cuts an edge as a loop. So just watch me now first, and then I'll be leaving you time to do it by yourselves. So what I'll try to do is I'll just try to create portions or parts that will allow me to extrude legs for the chair, okay? So I'm trying to leave square areas like this part, this square, they are not exactly square, but you will see that, okay, this squarish things, okay? So I'll go to the polygon selection mode and go underneath and zoom in and select this, zoom in and shift select this so that I can have multiple selections. Hit shift and select this, and hit shift and select this. Okay, now I've selected 4 squarish areas to extrude the legs, but without extrusion, if I want to move them, you see that they are moved as a block, right? But if I right click on one of them and hit extrude here, now it creates, and now I click and drag, and now it creates 4 different legs and extends them towards the bottom, okay? I can continue doing this while this tool is active. Each time I click, you see that there is a division here, okay? If you want to do that, continue like this, but if you don't want to add new divisions, just move them by using this, okay? So this time I have a more or less chair with 4 legs, right? But of course, after some time, you see that, okay, not all of these are square for once, and also probably they are not the same length or thickness, okay? But so for that, we need snapping, which I'll show now. So I'll undo all the things that I've done, okay? Undo, undo, undo, undo, undo, undo. Now I return back to my editable mesh square, and here you have a button called Enable Snap, right? So I select this, and it highlights this snapping magnetic button there. And now if I go to the edge mode and select a loop path cut, you see that, okay, nothing is happening because I want it to be snapping to these grids, right? But nothing is happening. It's because, like, by default, it's not set to snapping to the points or snapping to the grids, but snapping to vertices or edges or that kind of stuff. To enable that, I need to select this button, and from here, I'll go to grid and work plane. Okay, I select this. And now you'll see that it snaps to these intersection points now. Okay, so each grid point it snaps. So now I can measure things. For example, I want to leave 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 by 4. I want to create 1, 2, 3, 4 by 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and slice, and this 1, 2, 3, 4 slice. Okay, now I'm sure now that these are all equal because they cover 4 by 4 squares because I did it by snapping, right? So just try this and tell me if you have any problems. So this is a very nice feature which allows also you to, for example, draw vertical lines on your viewport and, for example, that are at certain size and dimensions and that kind of stuff. So try this and let me know if you have any problems.
Edge mode'a girdikten sonra right click yaptırdınız ya.
Efendim?
Edge mode'u aç.
Yeah, there are two people who missed snapping. I'm showing that again, okay? So just don't miss it. By default, there is no snapping, right? So if you, without snapping, if you select loop path cut tool, you see that you can smoothly slide your slice across the model as this. And for you to see it easily, I'll maximize this viewport, okay, by clicking this icon here. But look at each corner of different view, like front view, right view, there are these buttons. So if I click this one, it maximizes that view. Okay, if I click to this one, it maximizes that view. So notice that there are 4 different buttons that are the same. So I will maximize this top view, right? So notice that without snapping, you can smoothly slide your slice here. And you see the grids, right? It doesn't snap to those grids, okay? So I need to open this snapping, and with its preferences part by clicking this wheel icon or gear icon there, there's an option here called grid work plane. You need to activate it. By default, it's like this, okay? If you activate that and try to move, you start to see that your slice starts to snap to certain levels. Okay? Is it solved? Everyone happy? Okay. So just slice your box into equal parts and tell me when you're done. So that you should have something like this, okay? There are 4 square parts like this. This will be pulling out the legs of the chair from these polygons, okay? In what sense?
Mesela 4 kare sonra çizgiyi koydum ama atıyorum 5 kare sonra koymak istiyorum yani.
You can move these edges if you're asking that. For example, I select that edge. For example, I'm shift selecting. I'm holding the shift key and selecting these edges. And by using the move tool here, you can move these edges. You're asking that? Okay. But be careful, like for example, if I'm at the top view, And when I drag this, there is some other line left underneath, okay? It's because that, keep in mind that this will be visible here. So because I've selected only the top part, top line, but it's as a loop, okay? So I need to select all at once, not the, I think the brightness is too. Biri esnedi mi o arada?
Hocam ben sürekli esiyorum.
Tam indirince uyku moduna getireyim dedikten sonra olunca. Oh, sorry. So you need to select all this at once. So that is probably visible here, yeah. I've selected only the top part, so when you move this, these lines stay where they are. So I need a different method of selection, okay? Either I can go here and, for example, choose this select tool, brush selection tool, and select this, shift click, and shift click, rotate underneath, shift click. I can do this, okay? Or there's another tool called loop selection. And when you use that tool, you see that when I click to some part, it selects all the parts as a loop. Do you have all these tools? Loop select, right? Okay, then if I go to the move tool and move that, you see that it's moved as a whole, okay? So since this is a 3D object, moving only a single line might not mean that you are doing the correct thing. So also check the 3D space, what's happening in 3D space. Everyone sliced their boxes? Okay, I'm doing that now. So now we've sliced them into equal parts, equal squares. I'll go to the polygons mode, okay? I'll select these. I select this one and shift click and shift click and shift click. I've selected 4 of them, okay? And then I'll right click to one of them and hit extrude here, okay? By the way, all of these commands have some shortcuts on keyboard, which can be done by M key followed by T, but that's not important for now. Okay, I hit extrude and then click and drag, and you immediately see that they are perfectly equal 4 legs extruded downwards, okay? Why? So did anyone follow? Okay, let me check. For example, if you like, before that I'm showing this, okay? Afterwards we'll be seeing that. That's called bevel, by the way. We can use the bevel command to smoothen out the edges, okay? But before that, just follow me, okay? So that you don't miss this thing. So now I've done the legs of the chair. I'll be dealing with the top part, okay? And I'll be disabling snap because it always snaps to certain places now, which irritates me. I select this and deactivate this snapping, okay? So that I can easily select some faces. So now I select these 3 faces, 3 polygons here, and then again right click and hit extrude and click and drag to extrude the back back side of the chair, okay? And now notice, please look here. I have extruded the back part of the chair, okay? Everyone, please look to the projector, so don't miss this. So I've extruded the back part of the chair by selecting these three polygons, okay? I've extruded that, and then I want a frame in the chair, okay? So I want to click and drag again, so that you see that there is another area that are created here because I extruded again. So now, if I hit space and deactivate this extrusion mode, I can now select here and maybe delete these parts, okay, so that it becomes a hole there. So, but don't do this because this is not the thing that I'm after. So I'm undoing that. We'll use another command for that, which is again, okay, we can use probably extrude again. Let's see what happens. No. Yeah, okay, there are two different methods. I'll try this. Inset. Okay, not that one. Okay, I'll just delete this polygon and delete this polygon. So that it has a hole here, okay? So now, as I've shown you the bridge command, I go to the edge mode and select the loop, like the surrounding frame of the front view, and then also I'll be selecting the surrounding frame on the back side, and then I'll right click and select bridge, and then click and drag from one edge to another, from the back edge to the front edge, so that now you see that it's all filled, okay? So please do this and ask me any questions you might have.
Çerçevenin aşağısını mı indireceğiz şimdi?
Efendim?
Çerçevenin aşağısını mı indireceğiz? Pardon, yukarısını aşağısını mı indireceğiz?
Şey mi, araları ızgara yapmak için mi? Yani ona ya başka şeyler koyup onları birleştirebiliriz ya da hani buralara yeni kesikler atıp onlarla beraber oraları silip onları bridge yapabiliriz mesela.
Yok, mesela şu aşağıdaki yüzeyi aşağı indirerek şey yapabiliriz ya, spamlı yeri.
Bakayım neyi kastediyorsun. Bir dakika. So everyone has done this. Okay.
Hocam
can finish. So I'm continuing on this, okay? So now we have created this form. We can continue on adding new subdivisions or loop cuts, for example, by incorporating like there is some problem here. I did something wrong, I guess. I did something wrong, yeah. So notice that there are two lines here. I moved something wrong in the process. This shouldn't be like this. But so I accidentally moved something like this and then extruded. But this can cause me many problems later on. So I undo that, okay? Yeah, I accidentally moved this, okay? So
Hocam benimki de öyle oldu. Ben de çizdim.
hareket mi etmiş? Yamuk mu olmuş?
Yani yamuk değil de iki tanesi üstte var.
Okay, probably because of that you needed to make them, bridge them separately.
Hocam bunu silemez miyiz?
Hmm?
Silemiyor muyuz bunları?
Yeah, the bad part of this kind of modeling is that you cannot undo, you have to start from the beginning. Like if you make an error, you can go back by doing undo until the point you made that error. Or maybe you can try to align things in a precise way that can solve the problem, but that would be, sometimes that would take too much time. Okay. So I again extruded this, I extruded this again. And now you have the general idea on how these things can be done, right? So I'll just start to show you different methods of geometric creation. I'll just do this. Okay, I have the chair's frame now. I can also okay, other things will be creating slices out of these parts so that I can add some back support rods to the chair. But instead of doing that, I'll be showing you some other methods of modeling, okay? So this can be the very basics of box modeling, polygonal modeling. You click and drag and adjust things accordingly. So in this way you can create very sharp-edged models. But of course, for example, if you like to soften things up, you can go to the edge mode and select the edges that you want to soften, and right click, and there is a command called bevel there. If you hit bevel and again click and drag, you see that now the corner of that is as if it's sliced or cut. But this is again a very sharp edge, and the properties of that bevel tool are adjusted here. Okay, so you can increase subdivision and then bevel. So you see that it becomes smoother as you change the properties of the subdivision there. Okay. Also,
Geçenler sanki farklı bir şey yapmıştık. Kenarlarına
what kind of different?
etmek için.
Hmm?
Bilmiyorum ama yani biber yapmamıştık ama yine kenarlarını yuvarlak yapmıştık.
That might be something different called a subdivision. Subdivision surface. That can be that. So I'll be selecting that. I'll be showing that also. So you can either, for example, selectively choose the edges that you want to soften or bevel, or for example, let's loop select these and right click and hit bevel.
Ha evet bu. Bu
Yeah.
bu mu?
Bu da bevel.
Ama bende bu kadar çok şey çıkmadı.
May. Because you have to select, for example, after you hit bevel, you have to increase the subdivision property here. Then try that, okay?
Hocam tüm mesela tüm şeyi seçip yumuşatamıyor muyuz? Direkt tüm sandalyeyi.
You can apply subdivision methods. For example, you can. Okay, let's try that. Let's select all edges and right click and bevel and try to drag that.
Sonra.
Okay.
Nasıl?
So now you see every edge is smoothed, right? So if I,
Nasıl hepsini seçmiştim?
that's a secret. You have to select manually. Okay, that's a bonus question. Just kidding. So go to the edge mode, right? And select any edge you like, any one, okay? And hit Command or Control A so that it selects all the edges of the model, okay? Command hit in the edge mode, select all edges by hitting Command or Control A on your keyboard. It should be selecting all the edges, right? So I right click again and activate bevel and click and drag, and you can see that subdivision. Of course, like if you change the bevel subdivision here and this, you see how the surface geometry is modified. Okay? Everyone done that? Hmm? Okay, let me check.
O ne oldu? İlginç bir şey yapmış. Uzay mekiği güzel bir torture.
Hocam böyle hepsini şey tutuyorum.
Evet.
Çünkü yaptım biraz
Evet. Onu iki falan yap. Tamam. Şimdi bas ve sürükle şeye. Herhangi bir ece. Öbür tarafa doğru. Azıcık yapacağım böyle. Bir de snap'i taktik o böyle çıldırtıyor. Snap'i kapat. Önce bir tıklaman gerekiyor şeye. Ama hepsinin seçimini kaybettim. Onlar daha iyi.
Üstüne tıklamam gerektiğini anlamadım.
Bak sen dedin mi snap açık? Snap'i kapat. O bir anda böyle çok acayip bir değere kayıyor. O yüzden öyle oluyor. So with the bevel tool, you need to be careful, okay? So if you drag too much or like in a wrong direction or something like that, it can cause very distorted geometry like this or like any crazy thing you might imagine. So be careful to not drag it too much, okay? So just a little maybe to smooth things up, okay? So yeah, there's another method for this, and let's, okay, I've shown you modeling this way, and these primitives and these shapes, right? And now I'll be showing you a different kind of object in Cinema 4D. So which are called the generators. Okay. So we haven't seen these, right? Anyone knows these? Okay, these are a set of powerful tools that allow you to parametrically generate or modify some geometry. Okay, but the difference with these things, with these green objects and these blue objects, are generators need objects to function, or children to function. For example, this subdivision surface here, I'll create this, and you see nothing is happening on the scene, okay? Because this green object needs a child. So if I put this cube inside, you see that something has happened to the cube, right? Its whole appearance has shifted. So now I have parameters of subdivision surface here. I can play with the subdivision amount. So, and if I go to display and hidden line, ground shading lines mode, you can see that this subdivision surface divides the surface of the object and makes it smoother. But it loses some details. So, just a second. Efendim? Dur, onlara daha geleceğiz. So everybody just put a subdivision surface on top of their chair models, and please let me know when you do it. On the subdivision surface generator, if you click that and change this subdivision viewport number here, you can see that the surface becomes smoother and smoother when you increase that. Everyone did that? Okay. Has everyone the screen getting shared? The report? Okay, please add the subdivision surface generator on your scene and put that cube object as a child to that. Is it working? The subdivision surface?
Yes, but my sections were too small, I guess. I mean, this was the maximum smoothness I get.
Can we see? Okay, go to the display here. Without changing lines. You made some subdivisions, cuts there, too much maybe. If there are too much cuts on your model, then the subdivision surface does not operate in those parts. So I'll show you an example. I'll show you an example on a different scene. So I have a cube, okay? And if I put that cube in subdivision surface generator, okay? You see that that cube is smoothed to be a sphere, okay? By the way, for example, these generators, these green objects, or these modifiers, other things in Cinema 4D, has this little check mark here, green check mark, okay? Which means that it's operational, it's working, okay? If you want to disable this subdivision surface, you can click here and it becomes an X, a red X, which means that it's not working now, it's not active, okay? So active, inactive, enabled or disabled, okay? So this subdivision surface is transforming this cube into a sphere. But, for example, let me show you the corner edges mode by opening display grout shading lines. So remember the segments, segment properties, or let's subdivide, let's loop cut this cube, okay? So I'll just right click in the edge mode, I right click and loop path cut and add some cuts here, okay? And after I add that cut, I enable this, and you see that how it changes the subdivision surfaces operation. So if I add a cut here, it also creates this. It disables the subdivision surface to smooth things too much. Okay, so from this side I can add again a cut, and from this side I can add a cut, so that it defines the cube in a more definitive way. So does that make sense? So, okay. So if your geometry inside the subdivision surface does not have any like slices or subdivisions, it is crushed by this subdivision surface to be the smoothest version that is possible, okay? So maybe instead of like a mesh cube, I can use a parametric cube in which I can parametrically change this. So I'll put this inside the subdivision surface. So in the cube, if I increase the number of segments, you see that it starts to be resembling more like a cube, right? But of course, the complexity of the geometry increases too much, so I wouldn't recommend this normally. Only if you need that. So this subdivision surface is used to create smoother surfaces, mostly, or in combination with other deformers, you'll see what its uses, okay? So because of that, when I add this subdivision surface, this is smoothed too much. But if I go to the chair and select all edges and hit bevel, And instead of subdivision 7, let's say hit 1 and do something like this. It's only like a little bit smoothed. And then, for example, I can enable this subdivision surface, and now you see that it's not crushed like that, but again smoothed but not crushed. Okay, so these slices on your geometry defines how farther this subdivision surface operates. Okay, so Naz, is that somehow answer to your question? Okay. So of course, there are other methods of surface generation. For example, I can immediately show you another method for, let's say, a chair again. So I'll create a new scene with Control or Command N. So I'll just go to the let's say right view, and I'll select the spline pen tool here. Okay, so which allows me to draw things on the viewport. Okay, so I'll just draw a profile of a chair like this, maybe. Say let's say a little bit comfortable chair. Okay, and hit space, and then I can add another generator here called extrude. Notice that there was a command as extrude, but this is a generator extrude. So when I put a spline or an object, or it has to be a 2D object, of course. When I put a spline inside the extrude, you see that it extrudes it in a certain direction. So when I select this and go to its properties and the offset property, you'll see that it immediately generates this sketchy chair thing like this. Okay. Of course, like I can go to the spline and select close spline so that it closes that spline to a closed shape, and then it becomes something like this. Okay. Or of course I can I can use this extrude to extrude any shape, any 2D shape you like. For example, let's say I have a flower. I put the flower inside the extrude, and it becomes something like this, right? So the beautiful part of this is, for example, if you were to make something editable and then extruded that thing, you couldn't change the shape. But since now this is a parametric object, a generator, when you change the flower's properties, for example, inner radius, it keeps this extrusion. Okay, and it adapts to your shape, whatever that shape is. Okay, so instead of that flower, I can delete that, and let's say a cogwheel. I can put this inside the extrude, and it extrudes that immediately. Okay, so of course another method of this would be to convert this cogwheel into an editable object, and then okay, that again doesn't work. Okay, you can always, even though it's an editable spline, you can still put it inside the extrude object. Okay. So yeah, extrude works like this, and this is how we transform simple geometries into 3 dimensions. One is extrude, the other one is lathe. So for example, okay, I'll just draw a vase form here, just delete that. Again, choose polygon pen, and for example, let's try to draw, not polygon pen, sorry. Let's select spline pen and start to draw a vase form maybe. Hit space to deselect, deactivate, and then create the lathe generator. And if I put the spline inside that lathe, you see that it immediately becomes something like a vase. Okay? So the beautiful part of this is, for example, if you go to the spline and select one of the points and play with that, it always responds to your actions. Okay? So that you can explore different shape options or modify your model after it finishes. So this is lathe. Of course, there are other methods of geometry generation, but probably we'll be seeing them on next week. And we'll have a more complex classwork to be submitted. And in the meantime, I highly suggest you to think about your projects that you made the presentations of and try to generate or find some visual inspirations and reference images so that what you're going to model becomes more and more defined as you go towards the semester. Okay? Yeah, for this week we can finish here, and then we'll be continuing to see modifiers and other generators, and we'll have another classwork that you're going to submit next week. And yeah, in the meantime, you can ask questions about the research that you made and the presentations that you made, or your idea about the product, packaging design.
Hocam
Okay.
şu hafta submit etmiyorum.
Yok, hayır.